Hello, everyone. How you doing? It's been a while. It's been what, like maybe 3 weeks? I told you that this probably would happen from our last conversation here at the show, and it happened. So welcome everyone once again, and I hope you're doing fine. Summer is almost over, at least on this hemisphere. So depending on where you at, maybe you're starting the summer now. But where I'm at, the summer is getting more and more fainted, unfortunately. But I think we still have like a couple of weeks, so I will still take advantage of that. So this is my premise, yes, to say that there might be a case that the next show, I don't think that will happen though, but I will let you know. But I was about to say that there might be a case in which the same thing will happen, like having an interval more than a couple of weeks, because I want to take the advantage as much as I can out of the weather. But as I said, this is kind of a joke, but this might happen. I don't think it will actually, but in any case, I already gave you this premise. Anyway, so how's everybody doing? Let's check the chat here. So 1 second here. How's everyone doing? So we have, who do we have here? We have Cheryl, we have Gavin, Sabine, Michelangelo. Hello, everybody. And we're gonna start with the usual. So since the last time we spoke, kind of, I don't remember this, as I said, this was like around 3 weeks ago, more or less. And I'm not entirely sure about what was the situation regarding the pandemic, but in any case, it seems like the infections are going seriously up again, unfortunately. And although the vaccines turns out, because the fact that the vaccines are going up so severely once again, it seems that it seems, who am I to say, right? But it seems like the vaccines might not be like a done deal in terms of protections, protection-wise against infections, the infection itself. But it's indisputable that they have, a good efficacy regarding, at least serious disease coming from the infection and deaths. For those of you that are on the fence whether or not you should get vaccinated, I think you should, in my opinion. Of course, this is not a political show, although this is not political, it's more about what I consider to be public health. But yes, the show is not about public health anyway. But since this show was born out of the pandemic, this was actually something that we always talk about in the beginning, and it seems like the infections are going up, kind of severely once again, unfortunately. In the UK, Europe has a good rollout of the vaccine, but for example, it seems like there's some confinements again, lockdowns again in China, and lockdowns also in other parts of the world. I believe New Zealand still is in lockdown, and so is Australia. So this is stuff that it's currently happening still, and it seems also that in Europe, although the vaccination rollout continues, and now, by the way, now for the younger ones, I think now the age range for the vaccine rollout is for 12 and 15 years old. The rest of the population were already given or invited to get at least one dose of the vaccine. And I think, I might be wrong here, but I think the plan for this age gap or this age range is to get one vaccine. I'm not entirely sure about that, so sorry if I'm not saying things correctly, but I think that's the case. But in other parts of the world, this problem is real again. For example, in the US, they seem to have or experiencing real trouble on getting population in a good number to be vaccinated, and they're not facing serious issues because of that, and more specifically because of the Delta variant, which is the dominant variant around the world, I believe. And President Biden already warned the population, I think this was like a week ago, that the U.S. government patience is wearing thin, and I quote unquote, is wearing thin. So I think part of that communication was to mention that, and I'm not entirely sure about not entirely sure like as in like 100% being like that, but I believe that there are some vaccination mandates or obligations to whoever works for the government over the US. I'm not entirely sure about this. This is the part I'm not entirely sure, but definitely there are some mandates regarding vaccines over there. And due to the fact that president said like patience is wearing thin, we'll see if this mandate gets extended to other parts of the population. So this is what's happening in the US still, whereas in Europe, a lot of countries, UK being one of them, my country being another one, are not, we had like these masks mandates and other things. So all of those measures are dropping one by one, slowly, but very carefully and cautiously, because even just, I think it was either today or yesterday, not that the summer is finishing, as I said in the beginning, at least in the UK, the government already mentioned that it's wise for the population to be prepared for some possible complications regarding the virus during the winter time. So basically the rules might change in that regard once again. Of course, nobody wants that. Nobody, whether it's the government or the population, nobody wants to experience the same things that we've experienced last winter time, especially during Christmas. Can't believe that we're talking about Christmas already. It seems like Christmas was it's still a long way to go, but that's not the case actually, because we are in September already, if you can believe that. But yeah, so still on this topic regarding the UK, the winter plan was laid out by the health secretary as recently as today, if I'm not mistaken, or yesterday, and this includes the rollout of a booster jab for people over 50, and this starts from next week already. So this is moving fast in the UK regarding this, and this means that there are some indications about the possible disruption again during the winter time, and that's why they want to make sure that this booster gets rolled out before, with enough time before we reach the winter time, and so we don't get to that same state as we had last week. So the big difference in comparison with from this year to the past year was that now we have vaccines. We are even talking about like a booster vaccine. So that's a very, very, very big change. So I've been right most of the time regarding this, not because again I have like special information or anything like that, just my gut feeling about all the episodes that we watched regarding this pandemic, unfortunately, and a lot of times I've been right in terms of my predictions. So we'll see if I'm right this time again or not. I'm always happy to be wrong if it's for the benefit of everyone as well, but I don't think we're gonna see another lockdown in Europe. I don't think that's gonna happen. Although what we might see is some changes in rules, and apparently the government is already announcing some of them. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But the fact that we have vaccines, it's a very, very big change, obviously. What else? There's also a plan B for the UK, which includes vaccine passports and compulsory masks. So masks mandates once again, and I quote, highly likely that healthcare workers will face mandatory COVID jabs. So this was not in place until now. It's not in place yet, but the fact that they are kind of announcing this now, this might mean that something like that will be in place just as they call it plan B. We'll see if this turns out to be the plan A. But yeah, this is where we're at still. I can't believe that we're still talking about these rules and changing and preventive measures or actual measures because of, vaccines going up. But this is still where we're at. Although, as I said, the fact that we have vaccines is a big change, obviously. So I hope everyone's watching, independently of where you are watching this, because we have people, fortunately, watching this all over the world. I hope everyone's okay. I hope you're not one of these people that are facing lockdowns, but if you are, this will go away at some point. Okay, this is true. This is not just me saying it just for the sake of it. This is actually what will happen for sure. We just have to hang on to this in this moment for a while, but this will go away for sure. Actually, regarding our industry, VFX, of course, very big news this week. Actually, yesterday, I believe. So, DNAG, company that I've already worked with, is gonna start paying overtime. So this is very, very, very big, very, very big. So this never happened in the UK regarding our industry. Of course, this happens in other parts of the world. For example, Canada, in many different locations, obviously, but not in Europe. So this is very big. And this was actually a trend, let's call it trend, because I believe it's going to be a trend. This was actually started by Outpost, and at that time I think we talked about this here in this show, and I think I said something along the lines like, I think others will join, and here we are now. We have other people joining this, not other people only, I'm talking about like a very big player, as big as DNAG is. So I think that's it. It's a done deal. We'll see if I'm wrong once again, but I think this is a done deal. I think from now on, companies will change their rules, the way that they've been operating until now. This is one of the changes, very big changes, as I said. But other things are already happening, because now what's happening is very interesting. It's like companies fighting, and fighting is a word that I'm using, not or that they've used, but it's basically what it is, right? They are trying to come up with ideas to get people in, because now there's a lot of work. So the hiring spree, as I've been calling it, continues growing and growing. And in the UK, more specifically because of Brexit, a lot of people, and the pandemic at the same time, so we had that combo, right? A lot of people left the UK, right? And now, you know, companies need people, and probably they don't have enough people for the amount of work that they have. So, you know, measures like this will, you know, favor the game to company A or company B. So of course it's a no-brainer, obviously. Okay, company A offers overtime and B doesn't. So, right, I think it's easy to choose. And we're talking about not a small company, we're talking about DNAG, with all good projects that they have. They've been winning, actually, I remind everyone, the last, I believe, 5 Oscars for VFX. So of course this is a very, very big deal, and I think this coins the change from now on in VFX regarding the UK. Right? How's everybody feeling here? Everybody, no one's saying anything about this because, well, I don't know why, but you know this to be true, and it's a good thing for everybody. So that's it regarding the pandemic and pandemic overall, and pandemic regarding our industry. And now, of course, as usual, we're gonna talk about technical highlight of the week, and this time I'm gonna highlight something that is actually from a Foundry's webpage, in which you can find several examples for not only regarding nuke particles, but more specifically about nuke particles, and things that look cool, simple to do, and you have the ability of checking them out, checking the scripts, and see what they do, and then do the modified, the changes needed for you to accommodate that to your needs, to your shot, to your project, basically. So I'll be putting the link below in the description after the show is over. And this was actually mentioned by Attila in the last group call for the next level. So thank you Attila once again. I didn't know about this you know, this page, so now I'm sharing with everybody, but I think it's useful. Okay. By the way, since I just mentioned Attila and the next level, for those of you, because some people have been asking, for those of you that are interested in the next phase of enrollments, please go to the website, complarevfx.com. register your interest in the next phase of enrollments, and then we'll be in touch hopefully very soon, as soon as like 1 week or something like that. Okay, so yeah, it's that time again. Basically. All right, cool guys, now it's time for the Tech Corner. Tech Corner, this time we're going to talk about procedural ways of achieving looks, and this time it's going to be with I just mentioned particles. It's going to be with particles. So I hope you enjoyed this. We're talking about I'm not going to tell you about what this is exactly, so you'll see what it is, but after that we can have our guest, and some of you might know this person. Okay, some of you might know this person. So we're going to talk about this person and a little bit about the Tech Corner as well. But for now, let's hope you enjoyed the Tech Corner, and let's see it now. All right, bye. See you in 15 minutes more or less. All right, bye. See ya. So today we're going to talk about alternative techniques to procedurally make thunders on a generic sky like this one, for example. Particle system actually has some very cool applications if we use them in this way, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. So first of all, before we even touch on the sky part, we're going to just open a card, and then we're going to open a camera, generic one, and then we're going to use our scanline render, so normal setup here, nothing crazy. And now we're going to do something that we already discussed before, which is we're going to link the camera to the actual card. And the reason for that is we don't want to have a different perspective once we are capturing our card with something that we're going to put on top, that it's different from the actual image that is going to come in here. Otherwise, we think we're going to map something in here, and it turns out if we don't do what I'm about to show you, probably this is not going to be here, your region of interest, but it's going to be somewhere else. So in order to avoid that problem, we're going to link the camera with the card, and we're going to link the focal length to the lens in focal here, and then the horizontal aperture here as well. So now they're linked. What this means in the 3D space is we're going to follow the frustum of the camera, even if we go really far away from the camera. If we use the Z slider to do that, it's going to be always in the frustum of our camera. So now what we're going to do is use this to our advantage in order for us to map things procedurally, so we can do what we discussed, which is put a generic sky like this with procedural thunders. So we're going to use a particle emitter as discussed, and the card is going to be actually our emitter. And as the particle, we're going to use something very generic as just a constant with a square format. It can be a very small one, it doesn't really matter for now, and you'll see why. And then I'm going to use just a radial, and our radius is going to be in the middle. You can actually take this out, and now this will be our particle. Let's see what happens. So as expected, if we don't do anything, of course our emitter is going to emit our particles. But what I want to use the particle emitter for is to create random spots within the actual card that we have in here. So to do that, we actually have to put our velocity set to 0. And now we're going to have something appearing and disappearing like that. To increase the randomness of this, I'm going to change the emit from, instead of points, I'm going to put these to faces, and I'm going to have something a little bit more spread out within the actual emitter, which is our card. And I'm going to change the size and the emission rate and stuff like that. So I want just a few of them. So this is already a bit too much. So let's put this like that. Maybe it's a bit too fast. So let's change things a bit with the max lifetime. Still a bit too much, so I'm gonna maybe put this to 0.1. Maybe it's even a bit too much. Let's do this because we just want, this once in a while. And some of them, they seem to appear more than what I really want. So we're gonna go to the max lifetime here, and we're gonna decrease this value to something like 5. So we're going to use this, and you'll see that why this now makes sense in terms of why we link these two together. So now if I look at this guy here, I'm making sure, because they're linked, that that font is going to actually appear on my canvas, whatever that format might be. So let's now pause this part in here, okay, for now, and let's now do something to our sky. So what we're going to do is to transform it a bit and put it like this. I just put the transform, a crop, so we just care about this part in here. And the idea now is to basically use this to drive something that we can do with the sky. Let's now again focus on the sky. So what do we really want? So normally things that we can do for this purpose will be based on the keyer, and we connect the keyer here based on luminance, and then we try to extract those areas like that. And then we can use this as a mask to drive this type of stuff, for example. So it's basically the same concept, but instead of you isolating parts manually, the idea is to isolate them procedurally with this. This will be the driving force for it to map, okay, where do I want to see this type of stuff? And just in case you're wondering, the beautiful thing about using this technique is that every time that you use this setup, you can vary the randomness by just going here on the random seed, and now you have like a different distribution with the same settings, with the same speed, velocity. So the behavior in terms of like frequency and stuff like that is basically the same if you don't change the settings upwards, but the whole thing is going to appear differently because it's a different distribution basically. So let's focus on this part now. What can we do to improve this part here? So let's isolate this particle here, and of course this is way too perfect, so we need to break this perfection, and the way that we're going to break this perfection is obviously with a noise, something like this. And then with the night distort, and now I can break the perfection of those lines. And now every time that we have one of these things, it will be different. You see? So now it's different. And then you can increase the distribution, you can increase the emission rate, you can increase, whatever. So I've just increased the emission rate, so we should expect more particles within the same frame range. Now the idea is either you change, these settings within the particle system, or you can do other things after the system itself. I'm talking about, for example, the size. You can increase the size while you're in the system in here to become more or less. It's really up to you. And you can actually, and this is something that I would always advise you to have this as being random as well, because that's exactly what you expect. You don't want all the particles to follow the same size. So I can then go here and vary the size on the subsequent ones that we should expect. So now the sizes between them should vary as much as you want by moving the slider in here. And if you want to still keep the fall off, you can. So you can do it in here, and maybe this is a good option. And because you're putting the fall off prior the distortion, you're going to have that fall off better this way instead of putting a blur afterwards, because the blur afterwards is going to destroy that kind of a thing. Now we're going to maybe slightly increase this a bit more. And now we're going to use this to basically isolate the parts in which we want to do something about the sky. So first of all, as I said, we're going to first of all use the remove here, because this is the format that we want to keep, and only for the format. That's the only purpose of why we're using this. And now we're going to put the background there. So now the format that comes out from the scanline render is going to be exactly the same as the actual image that we want to manipulate. So now this map is going to be the driving force for us to do whatever we need to do on this sky. Now, you're going to use this sky as your mat to do this type of work that we discussed before. And there's variations on how you can do this. For example, you can have this type of stuff, and you can play with the luminous that you want to keep from the sky, or you can also try to use this directly as your mask towards your image. Let's see what this will give us. Instead of using the luminance like that, let's do it like this. And what I like to do in cases like this is to use the Gaussian to grow or shrink. Of course, we're going to break the perfection, but if we do this prior, maintain some of the breakup that the noise will give you instead of doing this, because this will just going to be just like a blob there. So here now we can change, how much breakup you want coming from the actual noise. And this is one option. I don't think this is actually very interesting, but it's one option. You can also use this to be multiplied by whatever you have coming from here. Let's say that you want to keep this stuff like this, and then you want to use this as a mask to multiply that luminance map in here. So you're going to keep that luminance map only on that region. Okay, and this is probably a better option. If we do this and play it, you'll see that this will be procedurally distributed. Let's maybe vary the distribution just to see if we can have things a little bit more interesting. Let's put this to 1. We need to increase this quite a lot. Let's set this to 30. This frame here is interesting because that's where things happen. So now we can try to vary this part in here coming from the actual luminance to see what we can do about it. And this is how you try to carve for, structures like this within your sky in this case. Okay, you can do things like this, for example. Then you can blur this afterwards if you want to, just to break those hard lines. But be careful, because if you do it too much, you're going to break also the illusion. So let's play it. So as you can see, there's different levels of success within, what are the structures that the luminous map will give you in terms of, interesting things for you to show. So this one is a interesting one. I'm not really happy with this one, because we can see that this is just like a sort of a roto shape. So let's put this to 200 maybe. Might be a little bit more interesting. Maybe these lines here are a little bit too hard, but we'll see what we can do about it. Maybe this one now is going to be really, really big, the one that we saw before. But this is the time in which you're going to play with the settings in here to vary the size, for example, if that's the case. If you think it's too big, this is where you're going to change things. So let's go to that frame. Yeah, this is way too big. So we're going to reduce the size. This can be a good base maybe. You need to be subtle with these things. The idea is some of them will be really broad, as we just discussed in here, and some of them will be more chirurgically placed. And you can have like variations of this part in here, so you can accommodate both parts of the look. We're going to take a look at that as well, but before we do that, we're going to explore a different way to carve for structures, because the success of something like this is where you see actual the structures. You know that when a thunder happens, it's light being emitted, and it's going to reveal things probably that are happening below the clouds that you can see. Sometimes it's not easy to search for that, so we're gonna try to explore different things that we can do to achieve those structures a bit more realistically. A way that I always like, because it's so easy, is to use a blur and then a minus. You probably know what the result will be, because you've done this for separating frequencies, and we're going to use this with a grade or with the gamma. We're going to take the saturation out, because we're going to use this as a matte. And these frequencies, as you know, can be bigger or smaller depending on what you're going for. But this is also a good way to vary how the thunders will appear. So let's keep the same simulation, and instead of using this technique, we're going to use this one just to see what this will give us. So we're going to use basically again the same matte, and let's say that we're going to multiply with this situation in here. Because we're playing with the alpha channel, I'm just going to shuffle one of the RGB channels to the alpha channel. In this case, I'm just going to use the red channel, so now red and alpha is going to be the same. And now if I'm multiplying this on the alpha channel, I'm going to have this. That's exactly what I'm going to use for my matte. Gonna keep this one as it was, disabled, and now I'm gonna use another one with different values so I don't lose those ones. Let's say that I want this to 500, something like that. Not pretty yet. This is where you're now gonna decide which order is the correct one for you in terms of how you want things to look, and I think this is actually the better connection order. And now you're gonna have either more or less. And it seems like with this technique, you're revealing things behind the front clouds. It's like something with some depth. The edges are a bit broken, so we can actually use this stuff in here. See, it seems like you are carving structures that you couldn't see before. And this is quite effective in situations like this. So the idea would probably be to have one system in which you're gonna use a certain distribution with this technique. So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna keep actually the previous one. You see how nice this can look? And then another one with just this, okay? But if we're gonna do this, we're gonna use a different distribution just to have different things going. So let's say that now I have more of them happening, and I want a random seed of 3 now. So I want this to now follow this side. So you see things, they are being addressed differently. It seems like we're keeping this, and it's only behind this that something is happening. Am I completely happy with the look? No, because the look is not developed yet. We're just taking care of the basis of the look with the technique included. So we're not gonna work so much on the look, but more on the technique as usual to achieve the look. The look will be up to you depending on the situation. If this was working before with this level of blur, it might not be working now. So now probably you want to change this here to something different. Now, one of the interesting and key parts of having thunders, even without the actual thunder itself, it's obviously the glow, and that's a very, very important piece. So what you can do with the glow is to just isolate that part of the picture in which we have some of these things happening. For example, I just want to glow this piece. I don't want to glow the entire image. So in order for me to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this moment from the actual picture. So what is different in this picture in comparison with the original one? That's basically what I'm saying. So I'm going to use this as minus plus, and if I do this minus, I'm going to have just that part, and this is the part, the only part that I want to glow. If it's too much, it will look weird. Is it too strong? Probably it's too strong, and it's too big also. So this is the part in which you're gonna go here on the size and maybe vary this a bit. I'm not gonna work too much on this one, but I'm just telling you this is where you do things. Let's not forget that this look here was actually working really well if we were using this on top. So let's see how this will look like. You see, this is actually a good one as well, a good combo. So you basically have a normal mapping based on the luminance, and then what we are doing on top in this case is to search for structures within this way, separating the frequencies like we discussed before, and then you're going to use something on top. So this is the result, the difference. Okay, and if you want, you can also have another thing going like this between this result and the actual first initial one to isolate parts and to now have a different type of glow, something like this. So this is really strong, but again, I'm not working on the look, I'm working on the technique. Now things are disappearing quite severely, and that's actually not a good thing. Let's go to where this happens, and a way to have control how fast this disappears is to basically work on what's driving the appearance and disappearance of that thing there. So after this guy here, what happens if we put a frame blend? So for example 5 frames, more realistic but still a bit too much maybe. It's all about varying things to the way that you want, and you can also have something driving this number between, you know, 2 limits of your choice. So some of them will look very fast and some of them will look a little bit slower in terms of appearing and disappearing. This can be very effective, and after that you can also link real thunders to go with it if you want to. I'm just going to show you different looks that you can achieve with this technique. This one, for example, all of this is random, and this can be as severe as you really want, but the main thing in here is for you to understand that, you know, it's possible to dig for structures procedurally, and if you happen to lead teams, this is actually a very good way to the same setup that can be actually compiled into a tool to vary the look between them without touching anything apart from the look, if that's the case. But sometimes if the look is developed and the sky is the same, you have a good chance that the look will hold between all of these shots. Just a distribution, that's probably what's going to be different. So this is what I wanted to show you today, which is achieving procedural looks based in particles for situations in which you probably wouldn't think of particles to achieve them. I hope you liked it. See you next time. Hello again. So very simple, right? Very simple. We looked at variations about this technique in previous episodes, not to achieve it the same thing. In order to achieve looks procedurally, but to achieve other things with particles, that's what I mean. But yeah, very simple. An alternative, I just wanted to mention something, an alternative way in comparison to what I've showed to basically still have something procedurally done, very similar to what I've showed today, is to have a version of a sky completely with thunders, like completely filled with thunders, and then it will be the particles done in this way that will drive the appearance or disappearance, or where they appear and disappear within that version of the sky completely filled with thunder. So that's also a variation, but the key part about the technique, about this technique, I mean, is definitely the way that you generate particles to generate these appearing and disappearing looks. And there's many other things that you can use, once again procedurally, to achieve the look, like having some flickering happening in different parts of the canvas in which you are playing with, and many other things. It's all about imagination really, but as I said, the key aspect about the technique is to procedurally generate where they appear and disappear and how they appear and disappear, so it can be different but consistent look wise throughout like a whole sequence, for example. Very easy to do in this way. Cool. So now it's time for our guest, as usual, right? And some of you, as I mentioned, that some of you might know him. Depending on who's watching, you might know him very well, actually. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest in 5 seconds. Yes, it's Michelangelo. Look at him.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Pedro.
How you doing, man? It's been a long time. It's been a long time, right?
Definitely a long time. And it's been too long. Actually, it seems like a month ago, but like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, the very last time that we saw each other was a month ago. So maybe it's best to tell the story. But before that, and first and foremost, happy birthday. Because you just had your birthday like a couple of days ago or something.
It was right? 9/11.
9/11, that's right. Wow. 30 years old, right?
Exactly.
Oh man, I still remember. I still remember the day. I think I was actually, believe it or not, I think I turned 30 when I was in Australia. I might be wrong about this, but I think I'm pretty right on this one. But so this goes to show you that I still remember. I'm not 30 years old anymore, unfortunately, but
32.
31.
Sorry.
But happy birthday, man. How was it?
It was nice.
How was it? How do you feel with 30 years old now, which is like a big milestone, right?
Yeah, it's a big milestone. And actually, I thought, oh man, you're becoming old. And then my parents, as a gift, gave me like the hat of Iron Man that it's a Lego construction. It's like, nah, I'm a child. I'll always be a child. I was so happy, never been that happy for a gift.
Oh, no way. So you are a geek like that, yeah?
You know what? I am not.
Come on, you just gave that away. That you are.
I didn't know that was going to excite me so much. Like, I never bought Lego since I was a child. Like, they give it to me as a gift, just saying, like, maybe he's gonna like it. And I'm like, oh man, I love this.
Well, you just mentioned that it's the best birthday in years, best birthday gift in years. So
yeah, exactly. I discovered while they were giving me that gift that I was loving that so much. But yeah,
that's cool. No, all right. I've never liked Lego, by the way. If I can mention Lego just here, not as an endorsement, obviously, because I'm saying that I've never played with Lego, but apparently you did. And for some reason, it should match my personality, but for some reason, I never got into it. I don't know why. I mean, I received Legos and I would build like exactly what's in the box and how you should build it, but that's not the main purpose of something of that kind of toy, right? The purpose for kids is to build whatever you want, right? It's out of your imagination. But for some reason, I was not really into it. But anyway, I'm happy that you are and that you like the gift so much.
You'll see next time, Bill, like behind me. It's gonna be there.
As I was saying, it's good to see you once again, Michelangelo. Last time that we saw each other was like a month ago, and but before that, we have to say that we met. I think it was more than 6 months ago now, January 8th or something like that. January, right?
Yeah,
because Michelangelo was part of the very first class of the Next Level program, right? And a month ago or something like that, I put this on social media with me and Monica. You guys were very kind and made a sweatshirt as a tour sweatshirt, right? Like one of those tour sweatshirts from bands with everybody that participated in the first class. So that was amazing, and I could never have guessed that you guys would do something like that. So thank you once again from me and Monica, obviously. But yeah, so that was the last time. This was like a month ago, or actually more than that. But
maybe 2, I will say.
Maybe 2, maybe. Yeah, time flies, especially during this pandemic. Do you have that feeling as well? Like that time is running out like very fast?
Seems like I'm in my mind. I came back from Canada in May, but actually it was May of last year. Now so I'm like, wait a second, where all that time has been? Like,
yeah. Exactly.
I didn't leave that time, and I got married in the meantime. So that's
you did. I didn't know that. All right.
On October of last year. Yep. It's almost 1 year. Like almost 1 year of my wedding. What?
Yeah, man. I know. Yeah, because I have the same feeling. Like also because of the pandemic, and it seemed. But at the same time, I was about to say that it's sort of a contradiction because the world was on pause mode, but at the same time, it seems like in some regards, time moved really fast. Because as you just mentioned, we more than a year went by and you didn't realize that it was 1 year, So it's kind of a contradiction, isn't it?
I think it because like every day was looking a little bit more like the other day. Like every day was similar because we didn't like, at least in Italy we had we couldn't go out after 10 p.m. and you couldn't go to restaurants, so you were living your day every day at home. So I think this helped like blending. It was like a time blend.
Yeah,
on,
a frame
on
blend
the
node, right?
days. Yeah,
Connected to our lives for that period of time.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's sort of a contradiction, but for sure that happened. And a lot of changes also happened. I think it's also because of that, because at that time a week would went by and it seemed like a month or more than that. And a lot of changes happening at the same time, not only but also regarding our industry and me personally, a lot of changes, right? And on a personal level, which is what brought us together to meet each other. The program was actually a reality that I've never thought of being able to have the time to do it. And it's all part of the same thing, but it's kind of a contradiction that the world was on pause mode, but at the same time everything in some regards seems to go really, really fast. So, but how life is treating you since that time that you graduated from the program?
Actually, pretty well. Like I started working at Trickster right in the middle of the, like I think before the end of the course of the class, a couple of weeks before, and I'm still with them, and I'm putting in practice a lot of the techniques that we learn. Yeah, one of my favorite, and it's one of the simplest, is that I just do the minus operation with the upper part of the tree and then plus, so I can pre-comp paint nodes and all this kind of stuff. And now, like I was looking at a script today that I did. It was like a pretty big script with a lot of CG. I was looking at it like, oh man, this looks so beautiful, because everything, even the stuff that you couldn't just over it, you can do that with this technique. It's so simple.
Simple, yeah. So, simple is good. As I always say the same thing, but it's true. Oftentimes, the simplest solution is not only the most effective one, it's also the most easy to understand and easy to troubleshoot as well, which is a very important thing about what we do, troubleshoot, right? Because, things change, there's always problems to solve, and there's a lot of troubleshooting, going on, right? So simple is always best than complicated, always. I don't care who you are, how many years of experience you might have, but yeah, I know, it's simple. Thinking in simple terms helps everybody. And I was about to ask regarding that, on that topic or on that note, how's your journey with Python has been?
All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Python. That's the thing. When we did the course, I had a lot of time and I started practicing quite a lot. And I was on the way of like, oh man, I'm understanding how things works, and I know where to look at if I have a problem. Then I start working and I start doing also overtime and stuff, and I'm so tired every time I go back home that I just
you need the time.
it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go back and look at the Python classes, not because I have like a project to do, but just to see the scripting, the way of thinking. Oh yeah, that's how you do it. And not because I have a project, but just I don't want to lose it. But right now, I didn't have any time. I mean, you can find the time if you really want to.
Yeah, but you definitely need the time, and time also means that you should be in that sort of mood, because, if you're tired, yes, you can make up time, you can make up an hour, but if you're really tired, you're not going to do anything with it. Regarding these type of things, you might as well like spending the time with your family, and or do, other things. But this type of topic, definitely, I understand completely what you're saying. It needs some dedication.
But they just looking at them sometimes and just going and look at the script that I did, I was like, oh, that's how I did it. It's there, like it's in my mind, and it's definitely the step that I needed to actually start thinking seriously about it.
It's more about the way you think, right? And I think you can translate the way you think and actually code with Python or with any other language, to take that kind of approach about the way you think and break down problems to other things that you do, that you know how to do. You know what I mean? Some people that don't know Python or any other language, they think that they will be better artists. If we're talking about VFX, of course, they think they're going to be better artists just because they know this language or that language, and that's not the way it works. You might be a better artist just because, you know, if you learn things with it, maybe your mind changes in the way that you approach compositing, like as without Python even, you know what I mean? But it's just a way. I think at least it worked for me like that many years ago when I started out with Python. So yeah, it takes time, but I was curious to ask you, because that was like one of your goals at that time, and I remember that, right?
Yep.
So keep going, don't quit.
Yeah,
slowly but surely.
Is before that I was working from home with my home machine, so I really had the need to do that, and I was taking an advantage of it. Like when you work in a company, I mean, I don't know, that's my personal case, you don't need it unless it's a very specific case scenario. Maybe you're developing some tools that a lead or a ComSub asked you. For me, I didn't have the need for that, so that's why also one of the reasons why I paused it. But
it's not like I understand what you're saying. It's not something that will stop from you, will prevent you to work, necessarily speaking. You can still go about your work in any way, but I think it's a very, very good way for you to stand out from the crowd and also educate yourself to achieve better things, different things in a different way, you know. But definitely you need the time. And on this topic as well, since you just turned 30 now, what was your resolution for this milestone? If you have some. I didn't have any, by the way, when I turned 30. Not a specific one, but maybe you might have. I don't know.
I want to become a ComSub by the age of 35. And I could say, like, in my mind is by this year. But I'll be honest with you. Every time I work in a company and I look at the things the VFX sub talks about, the ComSub talks about, the way they do things, they organize themselves, I say, oh my God, like there's so much that I need to learn. Like every time there's so much, and I don't want to burn, like, I don't know how to say that in English. I don't want to burn like the steps. Like I want to do like these steps slowly, like I'm leaning toward them and actually trying to fill the gaps, and say I will like realistically say 35, like become a ComSub to be a good ComSub, like a really good ComSub.
Yeah.
And for now, being a lead, like
it's one step at a time, isn't it? Like if you do things slowly, but you know, like with good foundations, that can only be a good thing, right? And it's also an important thing to mention regarding what you're saying at the moment, because a lot of people, they want to become this and they want to become that with either realistic or unrealistic time frames, just because someone is ahead of them or whatever. But I think one key aspect about all of this is there will be always someone ahead of you and behind of you. You know what I mean? And behind you, I mean. So, you know, it's like an impossible task to think like that, because there will be always, as I said, someone in front of you and people behind you. So, you know, it's better to, you know, be comfortable about the steps you take. So because that will be the good foundation for you to pursue other things in a good way, not in a rushed way. Yeah.
I mean, complete, hopefully by the year, like I'm already giving notes and that kind of stuff. So that's a more approachable goal for now, like I will say for my 30s. But yeah, that's like, I love the reason why I love this job, and the reason why I want to become a ComSub is that every time is different. Like we use the same tools, we use the same software, we use all the things that are the same, and every time you discover something new, and
never ends, right?
It never ends. And every time I start a shot, I'm like, oh, how do I do that? And it's the same question, is the same task that I had to do on the other script, in the other shot, but it's different. Like it's never the same thing. And I love this. And like become a ComSub, I think you have to have like a bit, not a basic understanding, but like to manage all this uncertainty that sometimes comes up when you have to deal with a task. Like I believe like for the comp soups that I had, like they have an issue and they know immediately how to solve it because they have so much experience and knowledge, and they know how to deal with that, and they start experimenting, and they're not afraid of that. So I think I will be ready when I'll be like, I'm not afraid of what I have in front of me. I mean, not that I'm afraid, but
I understand.
It's a different thought process. It's a more deep consciousness of what you have in front of you.
And also a good thing that will help you, I mean, whoever wants to go on that path, it's helpful, I think, to have also life experience, exactly for the reasons that you just mentioned. Like when you present with something that you don't know, that you've never, you've done something similar, but it seems that, this time feels different for some reason, and you don't really know how to tackle, you're not going to panic,
Yeah.
So life, can also teach you a lot regarding, these professional roles, whatever they may be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, let's not panic. Let's assess this in a calm way, because if you're panicking, you're not going to find any solutions because you're just like on panic mode, right? And and a lot of times, supervision is also about that, and you'll see many different people of many different levels of experience. Some of them like 30 years of experience. 40, even 50, that they start a project and there's I can put actually by the end of the show a link about one of these people, very, very experienced people, Oscar winner and all. And one of the cool aspects about hearing some of these people talking is exactly what you mentioned. Okay, how are we going to do this? As if they're not experienced, but they are very experienced, but for some reason it seems like they're doing this for the first time. So this never ends, you know what I mean? It's more about the calmness to assess the situation and to go for the situation. And there's to tackle this in a good way. It's one of the key aspects, I think. It's to have life experience in many different ways. And by life experience, I mean not only age, but also moving around, companies, not being in the same company all the time, experiment with different approaches, workflows, pipelines, etc.
One thing that I found key on this that you're talking about is not just getting the experience in studios, but like for me, it's been very formative. The fact that I've been freelancing, but not for companies, just for projects. And there was like the responsible was compositor, VFX supervisor. I was everything because it could be a one-man show. And that kind of experiences that I had, and I think that people that had it take the most out of it, was to be the guy responsible for that, like to take responsibility. And I think that that helped me a lot get to where I am. Like if you look at my experience, mostly work as freelance, like by myself for projects like that, than in companies. I mean, maybe it's half now. And that's the thing is, I think I need more experience in the companies to get what we talked about, like of the knowing how to tackle this group wise. Like we are a team and we have the lighters, the effects guys, and manage all of that, and to know perfectly all of that, like in the measurement part of it, and the responsibility you can take from freelancing as a one-man show can help a lot in that. Yeah. So maybe it was confusing what I said, but it's just like having this kind of experience of one-man show and like in music videos and stuff can help a lot.
Can help a lot. Can only help, I would say, right? I would add to that. Can only help. You're not going to be hurt by that in any way, shape, or form. Quite the opposite. I also mentioned many times that I started my career at that time in London many years ago, and I started out in a way that was not the norm. Maybe at that time it was the norm, which was like to start as a freelancer. So what do you know when you're starting out a career? You don't know anything, right? Let alone being a freelancer. But that thing, although it's not ideal, it also presented me with some advantages, later on, which is, okay, I have to adapt quicker. I have to, assess the situation quicker. Otherwise, and I'm not going to be here because I have another job in the 2 months time or something like that. So there's all these pros and cons. If some people are watching and they think they're on a bad situation because of this and because of that, and due to that situation, they cannot move to the role that they want, everybody's different. Everybody's story is different. You know what I mean? So don't get on or lean on that kind of situation as a problem. Just embrace that and make something original out of it.
Yep.
Yeah, and one of the things regarding this question that I just asked you now about, like, what's the resolution for your 30 years old, was because when we had our call yesterday, like the desk call, I was like, okay, I think I remember something about Michelangelo when we first met, like the first message that he sent me, and actually it was you, because I can disclose this, no problem at all, but the program started, the first class started on, I think, January, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like on the 4th of, like on the very first day, first Monday or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I was on this really big queue of people to the supermarket because you contacted me very close to either Christmas or New Year's Eve, right?
It was
and the queue was enormous. So I was there for like an hour. Let's not forget that this was like serious COVID at that time. So, a lot of restrictions and all that stuff. And I remember, this was Michelangelo. And then it was like, okay, I made up my mind finally, and this will be my year's resolution. New Year's resolution, right?
It's the best gift that I could do to myself. That's what I said.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, I remember like asking you, okay, what about this year? What's your resolution? Not that we have to have like a resolution every single year. I certainly don't have.
If you do,
but it's a good thing, yeah. But yeah, you were very dedicated during the program and very enthusiastic throughout the whole thing. So thank you once again. Not only from me, but also from Monica, and she says hi. By the way, actually, let's take a look here. Let's take a look here at the chat. So we have, what do we have here? Monica, just say thank you again. So there you go. Gavin says happy birthday to you. Livia, happy birthday as well. Mauricio, happy birthday too. So all people that you know. And Lelita says beijo to Pedro. All right. I don't know who you are, Lelita. So if you want to say your real name, maybe I'll have a better. But thank you anyway. But yeah, so thank you for your enthusiasm, and if it wasn't for, that was like a very different class for many reasons. I just explained many times before with some people that we had from that class as well in the past. And if it wasn't for you being there, you wouldn't feel the same. So thank you, Michelangelo.
Thank you.
Once again.
Thanks a lot for that.
Sure. When I was actually prepping this call today, and I always say the same thing, which is I don't prep a lot, and it's true because I want this to feel natural as possible, as if we were at the pub. Unfortunately, we don't have a pub.
Yes.
A midway, right? But we have to make that happen.
Natural.
We have to make that happen. But when I was prepping this interview with you, although we had many conversations before, but I didn't know that you went to UCLA. I didn't know that at all, and you spent a lot of time in LA, right?
Yeah, actually, it's a curious story. I finished high school in 2011, and because of VFX, I was rejected in the second year of high school. I don't know how is it in Portugal or England, but we have 5 years of high school. I discovered a software for, it's important what I'm saying, to get to UCLA. It was 15, I discovered this software called FX Home and Particle Illusion to do lightsabers and smoke explosions. And I was so much into it that I was rejected that year because I didn't want to study. I just wanted to do VFX. There, I understood that I wanted to do movies. And VFX, that was like an idea. But, when you start thinking about movies, about cinema and doing cinema, you start thinking, oh, I'm going to be a director. I'm going to be the best director of the world. And then slowly you start discovering, that was my experience. You start discovering the actual cinema, how it's done. And there are some fields that fascinates me more than others. And I went to UCLA because at first I wanted to be a director. I was directing commercials. I was directing stuff. I was editing commercial and music videos. And I went there for that. But while I was there, I had the chance to meet a lot of professionals in the field of visual effects. And one of them was Freddie Wong. I don't know if you know who this guy is, but in 2012 was probably the main guy that was doing VFX on YouTube. and he was doing like a web series. And after like 2 months of my stay in USA, and the objective was to do the directing course in UCLA, I was actually working. My first job was there. It was not here in Italy. It was there with this guy making Video Game High School. That is a TV series on YouTube, one of the first ones. And for me, it was like a dream becoming true, because I knew this guy since when I was in high school, and it was like a dream becoming true.
I was in Hollywood. Yeah.
I was in Hollywood working in VFX, learning VFX, because I wasn't able to do cool stuff. Like I knew how to do like roto on After Effects, and while I was there, this guy that was very busy liked to sit close to me and say, "You know how to do this?" And I was like, "No." "Okay, I'll teach you." And this guy was so famous at the time. I was so important and had so much stuff to do. It's like he's sitting here teaching me and the other interns, I wasn't paid for that, how to do the stuff that he needed for his series. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man, that's great.
And for that moment, Hollywood, I was 20. So can you imagine like the guy that go out from high school and then go to Hollywood and start working there? I was like in a dream world. And I started working in VFX like that.
Cool.
But the main objective was to do directing and editing for movies. And I had this thing that, maybe if I keep doing VFX and my life is bringing me to that, if I keep doing that, I'm going to lose the opportunity to be a director. And with the time, it's been something that I felt the weight of this decision. Like, I'm doing VFX, I'm so thrilled to do that. But at the same time, I started everything because I wanted to be a director. So I'm losing something behind, but actually didn't, because growing and working more and more and moving between a country and the other, all the experience that I had, meeting all the professionals, I learned that a director is a guy that actually knows very well the techniques of movies. Like, he knows, like, a very
movie making in general, right?
Exactly. Yeah. He knows. And what better job than VFX to learn how to tell a story through a frame? And I cannot be a director now. Like, I need to learn the frame. I really want to learn to tell the story via frame, via composition. And I think when I'll be able to do that, like, pretty well, like in the perfect way that I could ever think of, maybe one day I'll be a better director than when I started doing it.
That's a good way to put it as well. Yeah.
It's not my main objective. Like, I would love to stay in VFX, but this has been like learning this. Remove this weight of like you're leaving something behind. I'm not leaving anything behind. I'm just like gaining everything that is gonna help me in whatever decision I will take in any circumstances or any field in movies.
Of course, yeah.
I want to do this job for my whole life. Like, I want to work in movies, and thanks to the pandemic, I can imagine to work on Marvel stuff from my hometown in Italy, where there's no VFX artist alive here. And I'm like, I'm the only VFX guy in Rimini. Maybe there are more, but... And that's the other thing. I'm like, I always not dream, like, I'm not a fan. I'm not a Marvel fan. I like Marvel movies, but
I was about to touch on that subject, because you mentioned that last time we spoke, like, that meeting like 2 months ago or something like that, or a month ago, you mentioned exactly that. So, who knew, right? That I was, you said something like, who knew that I was able to do this job while I'm in my home country, right? And guess what?
Yeah.
That's where we at now.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't have to commute all the days with the car. I just spend like 5 minutes biking from my home to the studio. Rent is cheap. Food is great, And there's the sea at like 15 minutes from me, but walking.
Which city are you in, by the way?
It's called Rimini. It's Rimini, and it's on the east coast of North Italy, north center Italy. And it's beautiful to live in. And it's so beautiful that I start thinking, like, maybe, what if I do like a VFX house here? Like, people that actually work in VFX that are, it's quite a stressful work. Mm-hmm. And you have all these commodities here. Rent is cheap. Food is great. There's everything. You can go with the bike everywhere. There's like a lot of place where to relax. You can go to the beach. There are services on the beach. Like, maybe like I would be happy if I was like an American guy coming here and spending this kind of life and doing VFX. that could be interesting for the future. Not for now. I need
Listen,
to.
it's an idea. So
It's an idea.
it's
It's just going in the box of
exactly. So put it in the list of things
Yeah.
to do, or to at least think about. Well, you're already thinking about that, it seems, but things to put in practice whenever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. When taxes will be better for that. Because
Yeah, but that's very interesting that you're saying this. But I had no idea that you spent so much time in LA. I had no idea at all. I mean, your English gives that away a bit, because we know that countries from the south of Europe. I'm talking about Portugal, Spain, Italy, France. All these countries. Their English is very specific in terms of how. I'm not talking about the accents or anything like that, but because they didn't grow up with the language, you know what I mean? And you're a little bit different, but I could never guess that that was due to the fact that you spend so much time in LA, because you've been there multiple times, right?
I've been there in 2012
yeah,
with a tourist visa, but it was. Yeah, that's the other thing that I would like to talk about that really changed my life. When I was in LA, I thought that was the best place where to be to work in movies overall, like in general. And that became my dream town. Then I had to go back to Italy because my visa was expiring. So that was in 2012. And from that moment, I said, I want to go back to LA. I want to live there and I want to work there. So I need to have like a working visa. And there's a visa for the United States that is called O1B for whoever is interested in, that you can work as freelance for anyone. And it's a dream visa for people that want to do VFX, especially like generally movies. And to get that, you need a lot of evidences that you're worth being given a visa to be there. So I had to prepare so much stuff, and it was based on interviews, it was based on accomplishment, on salary. I had none of that. I was 20. Can you imagine? Like, I have nothing.
What can
but
I say?
You know what? I will try my best. And through the years, trying to building all the evidence and stuff, I arrived at 2015. And I was working VFX from Italy with different companies in Italy. And while doing this, I started learning about Canada. And Canada was better for VFX in a certain way. Like if you want to start like an internship, and visa are easier to get. So it wasn't unexpected, but I got contacted by Mr. X in 2015, and then I went in 2016. And when I went there, I understood that that was the place where I was going to be able to learn the best in VFX. Like it's not, there is, because of the difference that I was saying before, you can be like a freelance and you became a master in managing a project and become responsible, but the techniques used in movies, you cannot accomplish that by yourself. Working in a company give you exactly that. Like the people around you, you breathe their knowledge, and you get better and better over time working with them. And in Toronto, I understood that I needed that kind of experience. So I started looking forward for Canada. And when I started looking forward to stay in Canada, I received the visa for
there you go.
for the United States. Like, yeah, but now I want to stay here.
Life is funny that way, right? Because
Exactly.
But you know what? That only happens if you take a chance. If you wouldn't do anything, if you would stay in Italy, I mean, none of this would happen, right? And sometimes, that can be like a problem. Let's call it like this, but it's a good problem to have, right?
Definitely a good problem to have.
A good problem to have.
Yeah.
So I think from all you're saying is, I think that's actually a very important lesson, and we've discussed this many times here on the show and on the group calls, in the program, and all that stuff. Which is, I mean, if you don't take a chance, if you're always like afraid of, or what I may lose because if I do this or if I do that, yes, it's easier said than done. But the truth is, if you don't do anything, that's for sure. You know for sure that nothing bad or good will happen. You just stay the same, right? And staying the same, sometimes it's a bad thing. It depends on what you want to achieve, and what are your dreams, and what you want to accomplish. But I think there's always lessons to, even if things go bad, there's always good things to learn, because it's life experience.
One of the things that I learned the most, like going through this, and then I went to Hollywood and worked there, but it was different. And one of the things about that I learned is that life always know better than you what you need, and that's something.
Good way to put it. Yeah.
So, because like also bad things have happened in the meantime, like in those years, that brought me where I am right now. And I'm like, I could have never imagined to be where I am now at that point. What if I just stayed in LA? Because when I received the visa, I've been there for 9 months, and then I moved back to Montreal. So I spent the last 2 years of my visa that was valid for the United States in Montreal. So I wasted that, like, all that fatigue to get there. And then I wasted it. It's definitely not wasted. It's gained.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing that I'm so happy also now to be here. Like, if you ask me, would you be happier in Toronto or in Montreal or Vancouver working for I don't know what kind of company, to ILM, let's say, no? Maybe yes, but I can be happy here because I know it's not the latest word. Like, I'm here, I got married, so that changed everything,
Yeah, it's like another milestone in life.
Exactly.
If you want to get married, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody should get married. Don't get me wrong, guys. All right.
But yeah, things change, and hoping that things are best for you because they happen. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
it helps a lot.
And with the pandemic and all that stuff, I mean, things change so severely and so quick. You know what I mean? How are you adapting, by the way? With apparently very well, right?
Right now, yes. Actually, I love working with Trixter at the moment. There's so much sharing of knowledge that I didn't expect, like in general for companies, not just from Trixter. And I'm looking forward to stay longer with them, like a lot, because I like it. The way they work, the way they manage the pipeline, the way they manage all the comp department. There's always improvements, and that's something that you don't see very often. It's like, hey guys, we improved the pipeline for comp. Like, what? Never saw that happening.
Yeah, cool.
So it's a place where I think a lot can be learned.
Yeah,
and that's what I need.
There's some common friends. I don't think I know anyone personally at the moment that were working there, but certainly certain people that watched the show and sent me messages and stuff like that. Definitely, Jacob is one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I
worked there. Also, I worked there with Chris.
Chris, exactly.
Chris was there in another project, but
he's no longer there. That's what I'm saying. I think currently, I don't think I know. Maybe Benjamin is there, maybe still. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
But anyway, there's a lot of people that went there many times. Sabine, of course, being one of them.
Yep.
Obviously, but not anymore. But yeah, working from home apparently is it's a good thing for you, right?
Yeah, I miss the office. I would prefer go to the office.
Yeah, I think now. Yeah, I'm with you because I was about to ask you that. Now that we have like working from home, are you one of these people that prefer like only working from home, or you prefer like this hybrid thing? Because that's where we are heading to.
I would prefer the hybrid thing. Yeah. At least like for me that I'm here in Italy, like thinking of moving completely to like Berlin or Munich or whatever other city is definitely harder than do like hybrid stuff. But at the same time, like I'm happy I can do that here. I can keep doing that for the rest of my life maybe, but there's more that I can get, and I can get that only with like a hybrid kind of situation.
Yeah,
like the relationship and the knowledge that you breathe, as I was talking before, is what gives me the enthusiasm when I go to work. That's
what this whole thing is all about, it's about pixels obviously, but
exactly.
But it's also about the group effort, and it's I would say that the great majority, it's about that. The great majority of what we do is about like definitely group effort and definitely learning with each other and help each other. And there are some people that's okay, the different people have different personalities that like to be, in their corner, not talking to many people and stuff like that. But this is definitely a group effort, and a lot of people, or some people, better said, forget that sometimes. But that's what we do. If it wouldn't be for that, I mean, if you are very, very good just on your own, maybe you can be very good at a different job, but not in VFX because we need each other. Right?
Yeah,
definitely.
We need the team.
We need the team. That's it. Yeah. But some people, talking with different people during this time, during the pandemic, and every time that working from home would come up as a topic, I've heard multiple answers or different answers regarding the situation. Some people prefer to continue working exactly like that, not going to the office at all. Some people prefer going to the office as it was before, like 5 days a week. And some are in the middle. I think the middle is definitely, well, I'm pretty sure that the middle is something that we're going to see not only in our industry, but in multiple industries moving forward from now on. I think it's going to be difficult for the great majority of industries to have people working there 5 days a week, no matter what. I think it's going to be like a mix. And I think it's a good balance. You know what I mean? Let's not forget that we have, especially for women, still very complicated in some situations because of motherhood, obviously, and fatherhood as well. But of course, motherhood, especially the first time, it's different for obvious reasons, right? And I think this will help everyone. Like this balance about like work-life balance, I think it can only improve with this way of moving forward.
Yeah,
right?
I'm a little bit scared that once things get better, it will not happen because of the VFX companies, but because of the client that requires like, hey guys, everything came back together. So now for the NDA policy, people need to be in the office. So work from home will disappear.
I think I understand what you're saying, and sometimes I find myself thinking that can be a possibility as well. But that has been proof in many ways that this can be done in this way, because not a lot, because a lot of them were put on hold, but a good amount of movies and projects were delivered in this, within this basis. So this is definitely possible to do that, possible to do in this way, and possible to do this moving forward. NDAs were still a thing, and they are still a thing. Nobody's saying that they shouldn't exist. Quite the opposite. They should exist and being reinforced in different ways, maybe. To protect like this different approach now, but I think the door that has been opened is so big that it's very difficult now to close it. Otherwise, probably some people would quit industry, and maybe we know some people that probably already went through that route, right? And and the industry doesn't need that and can work in a different way, So I think that's where we are heading. For sure.
It actually makes things faster. Like I imagine every time we had to go to dailies that we have to stand up from our desk and just go running to the theater, and then the projector wasn't working, and then the computer wasn't working, and the network was going down. Like
sometimes like, a day goes by, click, and
we're all there.
And let's not forget that in the old days, let's call it old days, not that old, I'm talking about like a year old, right? Or more, a little bit more. But sometimes, especially in big companies, when you had the problem, like a technical problem, and probably this could happen like 5 times a year or something like that, which it's okay. But there were other types of problems that would prevent people from working in like 100%, and that meant that a lot of time would go to waste. And people were just prevented to be with their families, prevented to pick up kids from school at the right time, to have like a good work-life balance. Just because of technical stuff like that, this can always happen, even working from home, obviously. But a lot of times, and you just mentioned one of them, like in dailies, things are not working, and then you're there. Even if they are working, you have to wait for a long time for your shot to come up and to take notes, and then you go up
and you cannot work while you're waiting for your shot. Like like 90% of my dailies are I'm working, and then my shot comes up. Here I am.
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
Yeah, big difference. At the same time, that's why I think moving within a hybrid approach is definitely the best way, because at the same time, some situations, especially at the supervision level, things that you really want to discuss and solve immediately, whether it's within an artist or within a specific department, talking with other supervisors and stuff like that. If you're doing this remotely, depending on the situation, depending on the topic, this can take a long time. Because we are visual people, right? And sometimes it's difficult, visual and human. So that human touch and human language, body language, also helps a lot to convey an idea and to solve problems that way. So if you're prevented to have that, things can be slow also on that in that regards. So I think the mix. I think that's where everybody wins, and I think that's where we're gonna move for sure. Especially because of work-life balance. That has been really unfair for some people over the years, and I think now we're in a place that we can change that. Hopefully that's what's
It's
going
also
to happen.
cheaper for the companies to
Oh,
have
for
people
sure.
working from home, like much cheaper,
Way cheaper, way cheaper.
If you think of a company in Canada, I mean, they're not doing that, but like the cost for visas, because you cannot go work with like for every guy that comes from whatever part of the world. Just the cost of the visa, it's insane.
Visas, you have like
that.
real estate, you have accommodation. Sometimes all of that stuff plays a huge part on expenses for companies, for sure, and for people, individual people, obviously. Right. So yeah, definitely, you're right. By the way, guys, if you guys have questions for Michelangelo, this is the time for you to ask some questions. Okay, let's see if we have some here. I don't think so, but we have some messages in Italy that only you in Italian that only you can I think that there's an allusion.
That's my friend
Fellini, right?
Yeah, he's saying you're better than Fellini. I'm like, I know, you don't need to write that. I know that already.
There you go, exactly. That's it. Oh man, yeah. But yeah, I mean, regarding these changes, and one of the things that I mentioned, in the beginning of the show today, was the fact that in Europe, talking about London more specifically, now we have ILM paying overtime. It's a very big strategic move. No, did I say ILM? No, DNEG. Yeah, sorry, DNEG. But this is a big strategic move. They're not the first one. So Outpost apparently was the first one.
But remember, we talked about that in the call like a month ago, around 2 months ago.
Yeah, we did. Mm-hmm. And this is a very, very big. And this goes to show it's huge. Yeah, this goes to show that now companies, they need this type of other ways of attracting people, especially in London, not only because of pandemic, in which a lot of people were let go because of, this was actually tough, and let's not forget that this was tough on everybody, businesses included. Okay, what happened with the pandemic, obviously. So they had to make some difficult decisions in some situations, but now they need people back, and now everybody's looking, so they have to change their game to their favor, and this is a very big move that everybody will follow. I mean, we're talking like a big player moving like that. Of course, everybody will follow. Otherwise, everybody's going to go there, right? Yeah. And only there.
Absolutely. I think also Brexit is going to play a big role in that. Like I saw since the Brexit became like, I don't know, we need a visa like from Europe, not England, from other part of Europe to get to London. And so it became much harder for companies now to get people from abroad. I saw MPC open in Germany. Also, there's other companies now. I've been reading about them. I don't remember the name. I'm really bad on remembering names. But many companies are opening offices in Europe to try to get the people that were generally coming to England from Europe, and that's great. Like that's really good for people like me that really want to do VFX that are in Europe and don't really want to relocate to London. I mean, I would love to come there. I've never been there, like never been in my life.
No way.
London is the closest VFX place after Munich and Berlin. And I've never been there. I've always been on the other side of the ocean. I mean, it's not bad, but always wanted to be. And now that I cannot. I mean, I can, but I cannot.
Well, things are like the restrictions are off now. So yeah, definitely. It's easier now. If you would compare now.
You said restriction are off.
Restrictions because of traveling. That's what I mean. Because if you're talking about like a year ago, that would be very difficult.
Yeah. No. I was talking more about like coming there to work more than.
Well, you can. You can. Maybe you will. Who knows, right?
Should I do a visa to get there?
No. Like because of Brexit, you mean?
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I'm not entirely sure about that.
I think so.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't think things work with visa like that, but maybe there's some sort of work permit in some way.
Yeah,
not entirely sure about that. But it would be the same thing as you had possibly for Canada. You know what I mean? It will be one of those situations.
Definitely. Yeah, before Brexit, I could just go and start working with.
Now it's a little bit more complicated, but yeah, and that played a role as well. So. Our government is still deciding some of these things regarding Brexit, especially with Ireland. Now I think the conversations are are on pause with the EU indefinitely, apparently, for that specific issue regarding Brexit with Ireland. So yeah, things are not like decided yet, because this was like a move that now, wait a second, we're losing a little bit too much maybe. So they have to figure it out.
Maybe.
They have to figure it out. But yeah, cool. So apparently you're happy where you at the moment. You're working from Italy, good food, good wine, beach,
Good wife.
right? There you go, good life. That's it. Yeah, cool. So
right.
it seems like I'm gonna find you there at some point if I'm gonna go to Italy in the next.
Of course,
you're gonna be there,
whenever
right?
you want.
Well, don't say that twice, because otherwise
we just have the best food that is in Italy is here. So
no way.
Oh
Listen,
yeah,
you know, Italy is one of my favorite, if not my favorite country in Europe.
that's right.
So to travel and to have a good time. So maybe you're gonna see each other sooner than you think. We'll see.
That
We'll
will
see.
be awesome.
We'll see.
That will be awesome.
Well, it seems like people are very interested in our conversation to a point that they don't have any questions. So they are just listening. They're just listening. So that's a good thing. But yeah, so guys, yeah, it's a good sign. So if there's no questions from anyone who's watching, I think we're going to wrap up this, guys. And thank you once again, Michelangelo, for showing up, coming in and accepting our invitation. Of course, anytime, man. You've been on the list for... You were supposed to come on, on a different date, but it turns out that this was an opening possibility, and here we are today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man, anytime. And it's also always a pleasure talking with you. And we're gonna still, of course, be in contact, because now, we've had the program. We are in multiple ways that we can contact each other for sure. So we're gonna do that for sure.
All right. Yeah,
so you're gonna hear from me for a long time for sure. All right.
Nice.
All right, guys. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, and please stay on. Okay, we're gonna have our final chat.
Of course, I will.
All right. Okay. Bye, guys. See you in about 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah. Bye. See ya.
Ciao.